أشهد
أشهد
أن لا
ألا
إله
إله
إلا
إلا
الله
الله
وأشهد
وأشهد
أن
أن
محمدا
محمدا
رسول
رسول
الله.
الله.
You to worship God alone, because you know that by intellect alone, that God deserves our worship.
Yeah.
So, the question about Islam's role and understanding of life is such that human beings are created with this purpose, and they are well suited to fulfill that purpose. So, even if you're born.
First of all, is to how. Okay, so say if I become a Muslim now, if I maybe, but how would I? So obviously, I do feel like a sense of connection and gratitude towards something, but like I've never. No, everyone I've been surrounded by has been so anti that. But no, I don't know what I really have.
Sorry?
Where I'm from, like people are very
Anti-religious, is it?
yeah.
Okay.
In every sense, like they tried to infiltrate that into me, but I always felt like a different. I've always felt gratitude in a way. So how would I live my life now if I was to become a Muslim? How would I change?
Yeah.
Obviously,
So
okay.
firstly, you need to have this confidence and faith strong, because once you have a strong faith and confidence, you can bear whatever comes to you patiently. You might have difficulties from friends and families and so on, but because you recognize the truth, you will and you can continue your life with that belief. Once you have that truth within you, it doesn't matter how hard it is, you would know that, okay, no one can somehow force me into doing whatever. Because people should, number one, respect your wishes. That becoming a Muslim, I am not suddenly taking my life away. Like you think you're scared, your family might think, oh, you're going to now no longer be my daughter. You're going to take your life away and become like a zombie or something. No, you will not only improve in your character. I'm sure you have a good character and good personality already. No doubt about it. It's already reflective of what I've discussed so far. But you will excel and develop and enhance your noble character that is already, and you will demonstrate that in terms of your interactions, of your etiquettes, the love, the care, the support, the attitude that you have. People will see the difference. They will automatically see that I want to be like you. Because how is it that you're not lying, you're not cheating, you're not being rude and sarcastic and mocking, but you're being so much caring and respectful and helping and being kind and showing so much more sympathy and empathy. You're like a person which people say, I want to be like that. How can I be not like that? When they see the difference, their reaction will change. When you see that you are more connecting with your parents, giving them more care and support and more honor and more respect and more help, that's not something that they expected. They will say, actually, what am I losing? I'm gaining more. I'm gaining more and more for my daughter, but I see in my daughter a change which is in the good direction. That my daughter is not going downhill, she's uplifting herself in terms of her independence of thought, critical thinking, behavior, and righteous actions. She's being more and more charitable. She is being more what I'm aspiring to be. Imagine if you had all that money and people say, look at this miserable individual, they don't spend a penny. You don't have money and you're giving away to charity. You're saying, this poor person is more in need than I have. Someone hungry, almost dying, and you're about to eat, and you say, no. That person deserves this food more than I do. When people see these actions, the change in your character, no one will say like, oh, what have you become? What have you become? So that will, this is Assalamu alaikum. Sheikh Muhammad, if you have any question, you can ask him. We'll explain to you how the transformation comes to you. Sure. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, did he not say, أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام, إنما بعثت لأتمم مكارم الأخلاق, that I have not been raised except to perfect the nobility of character.
Yes. Actually, one of the things that I've experienced with many converts, called them reverts, one of those ones who I met, I met her mother, and then she said to me, the mother of this leader, she told to me, I wish my other daughter revert to Islam last time. So she became a better person. She became close to me. So Islam improved our good man, our good character. So because one of the things we have kind of this God conscious. Whatever we do is not about what the people see, but my relation with Allah, my relation with God. So every action has to be sincere and secondly as well to fulfill the rights of Allah. And that's what Allah told us in the Quran. For example, وَقَضَى رَبُّكَ أَلَّا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا إِيَّاهُ وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ and to be good to the parents. So it is something about our faith to be fulfill the duties of our parents. That's something we should fulfill as Muslims. So that's why if you say how can I become a Muslim, what are the things that actually will be a better country? I always say to the brothers or the sisters who want to accept Islam, I say, what is the best if you, for example, if you wanted to draw an image for you, who you are, about your personality, you will say someone who is very kind, very good, be good to the neighbors, be good to the parents, be fulfilling the duties of, her creator, and all of these things. Then I will say that this is so Islam brings the personality. Now the question is, I don't know what the discussion was.
So what I would like to understand from you is this. Firstly, do you accept that there definitely is a creator and who is one and only? Or do you still have doubt about God's existence? Because that is important, firstly, to appreciate and acknowledge within ourselves as the truth of reality.
It's really hard for me to say yes, definitely, but no. There's no no about it. There's no like. I'm not questioning it. I do believe there's a creator. I do believe that.
That belief.
But it's hard for me to say that in a way.
Sure.
It's like a resistance inside of me to say yes, there's a creator for some.
So let's help you build on that belief to be convinced intellectually. Yeah, convinced more intellectually. You see, if we are now here, something existing. Do you think there was a time there was absolute nothingness? Is it possible to have absolute nothingness?
Is it possible for there to be nothing? I don't think there is. Can there ever be just nothing?
Nothing will generate nothing.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I...
Right.
It's just...
So in the Quran, Allah tells us, you see, the way to convince ourselves about this absolutely, in the existence of the Creator, is to really develop ourselves critically minded, critical thinking. Allah says, أَمْ خُلِقُوا مِنْ غَيْرِ شَيْءٍ أَمْ هُمُ الْخَالِقُونَ أَمْ خَلَقُوا السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ بَلْ لَا يُوقِنُونَ أَمْ خُلِقُوا مِنْ غَيْرِ شَيْءٍ. Were they created from nothingness, from nothing? Or were they themselves the creators? Did they create the heavens and the earth?
Yeah.
Nay, they have no firm faith. So the Quran reasons with us, and you would know that we did not come from nothingness at one point, because nothingness doesn't have any power to create. It doesn't even exist. So nothingness could not create. So that means there has to be always something.
So why do you think we were created? Is there a reason?
There is a reason. So do you accept there has to be always something?
Yeah, I do.
Now,
What does that mean? Like it's a
is
Can't
this...
be nothing, because nothing itself is something.
Can I mention something?
nothing is something, right?
No, I said nothing.
Listen, let me just clarify for you. Yeah. So now here, since you said there is a creator, this creator, it has to have main three characteristics. It has many characteristics. It has to have main three characteristics. Firstly, it has to be all powerful to create this sophisticated universe, correct? And has to be all-knowing, meaning it has the knowledge to create this universe and this sophisticated universe. And it should have an independent will, meaning there is nothing forcing this creator to know what to do. So this creator decides to create and decides not to create, decides to do things and decides not to do things. So these are the three main characteristics. You accept this?
Yeah.
Now, since it is all-knowing, or this creator is all-knowing, now, why he has created us for? That's the discrimination. Now, if it's about to create, for example, a species, we are, if we are like other species, other animals, they do better job than us. It's about eating and drinking, reproducting. Animals, they do better job than us.
Yeah.
But us, we have this complicated, you could say, intellectual ability that our decision has having impact on everything around us. The more intellectual ability that we have, the more responsibility we should fulfill. Correct? Now, this responsibility, what it is. So I will suggest this. We are created to be grateful to this creator. Just to be grateful. And how to fulfill this concept is by submitting our will to his will, by following the guidance that he has sent down for us, and as well by being good and being nice and being kind and show the good manners that he has told us to be. That's the way we show our gratitude to this creator. And that's what it is. That's Islam means submission. So when you submit willingly your will to the will of God, then you are a Muslim. That's what it is in Islam. So having knowing this, so this is what God wants from us. If God about creatures, there are many creatures, they do different things. If it's about just only worshipping Him, God has angels who's already worshipping Him, that doesn't need that. So it's about us to choose, to submit our will to His will. That's what God wants from us. And that's what God has revealed in the Quran and revealed in for all the prophets and messengers of God, revealed to them the same thing. Revealed, and those messengers, they came conveying this message of God to the people to worship none but God alone and not associate with God alone. That's all. And follow the guidance of the prophets and messengers. That's what Islam is about. And it makes sense. And how it makes sense, I will suggest to you through the Quran. You will say to you, but I don't believe, for example, how can I believe in the Quran? For example, that's maybe the question. How can I believe in the Quran where I don't understand the Quran? It's written in Arabic. I don't understand the Quran. I don't know what the Quran is about. How can I believe in a book which is alien to me? But the Quran, I will tell you something. The Quran, it is not a scientific book, but it has scientific facts. Quran is not a historical book, and it has historical facts. Yeah? So when you read the Quran, you will see these facts. It cannot be said by someone who's a literate man 1400 years ago. It's impossible for someone to say such information or to bring such information during that time. That show the proof. What's your name, by the way?
Georgia.
Georgia. So to prove for Georgia that it is a book came from God, to make sense for her. And then after that you will understand this book was sent by God, and then after that everything else will make sense to you. And I could introduce to you many facts in the Quran. For example, there are scientific facts in the Quran, which we believe that there are scientific facts. Now, one of the scientific facts, now, it's night now, yeah? Now, when you look, the stars are not appearing yet, but when you look up, if there is some stars or whatever, actually when you see the stars, do you see the stars or what do you see exactly in the sky?
Just like little
What do you see?
shiny things.
What are they in terms of stars?
Just like stars. Like celestial bodies of, I don't know, rock.
So listen to this. It's actually what you see when you look up in the sky in the night, and you see the stars. Actually, you see the history. You don't see the star in the current.
No, because they're dead, aren't they?
Yeah, because what happens? You literally see the positions of the stars. You don't see the stars.
Yeah.
Positions of the stars when the light departed from it millions of years ago, correct? Now, would anyone know 1400 years ago about this?
Let me explain a bit more to develop this further. When I see a star there, I think it's just there, right? If that was a star, imagine that's the moon over there, right?
Yeah.
Now, if that was a star, if I saw that as a star, the normal general people understanding is, if you're not really into science, you think the star is right there. But the reality is, the star at this very minute, it's not there. That was the position of the star hundreds of millions, if not billions years ago, when the star was there. The star the light from that star was traveling. It took millions of years to come to us to observe it. But by that time, the star has moved its position from there. It's no longer there.
Or
It's gone.
black hole.
It's like this. The star emitted light and it's coming, but the star is moving away. And by the time it goes there, the star is somewhere else. So
Why though? Why?
Because that's how great is this is science.
So you think God created all the stars and the moon?
we want to make an important point though. This is something we're amazed to hear the understanding. I think we probably have just slightly missed it. The stars that we see, they are not there. We only see the star that was there at one point. Do you agree at least that? It's called the position of the stars. Quran says mawaqi'
Allah says in
al-nujum.
the Quran, فَلَا أُقْسِمُ بِمَوَاقِعِ النُّجُومِ. Meaning, God says, I will not make an oath by the positions of the stars. وَإِنَّهُ لَقَسَمٌ لَوْ تَعْلَمُونَ. And it's a great oath. But you are not yet aware of this. So God is addressing the people at that time. You're not yet aware of the meaning of the term positions of the star. Yeah? So now we discovered recently that this discovery, and after recently we knew through telescopes and everything, now we know those stars who are millions of years away from us. What we see now, when we observe them, we literally observe the position of the star when the light departed from it.
Yeah, not the star itself. It's a position.
Who taught Muhammad? Peace be upon him, an illiterate man.
So does it keep
something?
Does it keep the light there or something?
This is fact. We're talking
Light
about
has come
scientific
to us already.
facts.
These lights, they travel, come to you.
Oh, right, okay, right, yeah,
But the light is, the source has moved away.
Yeah.
So the star moved away from its thing. So the Quran is highlighting an aspect called, it's the position of the stars. Normally people would not even understand, what do you mean by position of stars? Because what you see is what's there, but it's not there. So that knowledge to a scientist, to an astrophysicist, should be striking. Like, how would someone even know this information? Because
And this someone, illiterate, unable to read and write, and will bring this information, and to be discovered after 1400 years.
yes, illiterate.
So how,
Who
Allah revealed him the knowledge
No,
to him.
there's not like
Allah informed him of this information.
is it like the people who say, like,
Yes. See, so who taught him?
like people
God.
who say like Muhammad was not illiterate, like,
Just okay.
No. That's Quran says he's illiterate.
Now, so you mentioned God taught him, and now that could be one coincidence. Okay, let's move on in the Quran. Let's talk more in the Quran. Okay, the Quran says, have you been to the ocean? To the ocean side? What do you think at deepest point any diver could dive 1400 years ago?
Without any
equipment?
How many meters?
like 10 mostly, at most.
Maybe 10, 15, 20, whatever. Let's say. Would anyone know what is deep in the ocean?
A mile deeper in ocean, would they even know how it looks like?
Looking how the technology to do that.
They didn't have the clue. Now, Quran told us 1400 years ago about this fact. God says in the Quran, those who are away from the guidance of God, like someone who's deep in the bottom of the ocean. Above him there is a wave. Above the wave there is another wave. Above the sea there is a cloud. Even if he took his head out of his pocket, he will be unable to see it. Darkness upon darkness. And whomever God they give him the light of guidance, he has no light of guidance. My point is, God has given a description of darkness, talking about people who are misguided away from the guidance of God. God could say they are living in the darkness, that's it. But God has described a detailed darkness, detailed one. This detailed darkness, it is scientific facts, which is discovered recently. When the sunlight comes to the earth and it's cloudy weather, 40% of the light will be exact, and only 60% will go through. And if there is the surface waves of the sea, what does it do to the light? It will break the light. So only half of it could go through. People could appreciate this, could understand this, but no one would know that deep in the ocean there is another layer of waves which they are called the sea current, which they travel in a different direction. Whatever remains of the light, it will be broken by this waves. And deep in the ocean, even if someone took his hand out of his pocket to look at it, he will be unable to see it. This is in a time where people used to assume the eye could see by itself. Who taught Muhammad about this fact?
The layers and layers of darkness, and there's total darkness in the ocean. In fact, the living organisms in there, they have their own source of light.
Yeah,
You know that. So the Quran is saying there's layers of darkness going darker and darker and darker to a point where it's absolute darkness.
We have like infrared vision, you can just see them.
So absolute darkness, that's something that people wouldn't appreciate and know. And not only that, the very fact of the existence of interoceanic currents or waves. Did you even know that there are, just like surface waves, there are waves underneath the oceans? You could not see them because if you go up space with your satellite, you can see them perhaps, but did they have satellites back then, 1400 years ago? No.
Is that on the water there is wet? You think that they're saying,
So 1400 years ago, we did not have satellites to know that there were interoceanic waves. So when the Quran mentions all of this, it's for us to reflect and say this knowledge could not have been known by any human being at that time. Even if you were to dive, you would not observe this kind of waves because they're deeper. Okay? So this knowledge comes from who? From God. For us to appreciate that this book is from Him.
And as well, for example, what do you think people they would know about the development of the fetus in the womb of the mother? Would anyone know that?
They made lots of mistakes by assuming, like Hippocrates, Aristotle, Galen, and various others.
God has told us in the Quran, when the human being like similar to a blood clot, similar to this, then it evolved and developed into like what is similar to a bite. And this bite developed into bones, and this bones covered with the flesh, and this flesh become a new creation.
Just to give you a background context, at one point there was this scientific consensus and understanding for the majority of people that human beings were like a miniature human being in the sperm from of a man, and it became bigger and bigger and bigger. And in 1673, Van Leeuwenhoek, when he had his very simple microscope, but it was powerful enough for them at that time, he says, look, we can see that, and they actually drew like a human being like this, and then it becomes bigger and bigger. It's called the pre-formation theory, which is, of course, it's false, it's incorrect, but that's what the belief had even in the 1673 at that point. The Quran, 1400 years ago, is telling us, no, human beings are created in successive stages, development one after the other, one form of the other, from this stage to the next stage, and so on and so forth, going against even the scientific consensus of the day. Okay? Now we appreciate and realize the Quran has been clearly saying what we know all along from today's understanding of science. But our point is, this information in this book, the Quran, comes from which source? It could not have been come from any person, any people, any community from the socio-historical milieu in 14th century, because they had a false understanding then. They thought the menstrual blood helped in coagulating the male's discharge to form a human being. But we know that it has no function in creating a baby, menstrual blood. Okay? That's what they believed. So going against the current, at that time, the contemporary scientific understanding, the Quran going against that and said, no, it's not like that. And now we ask this question, how did the Quran know and get it right? When you had, say, 16 different types of theories and all of them are wrong, some right here and there, and Quran gets all of them right, from someone who doesn't have medical science knowledge, someone who doesn't have scientific knowledge, not any knowledge of reading a book of any kind. The Quran tells us if they knew that you were able to read and write, these are answering your question, they would have doubted. The Quran says, they know his community has seen him not being educated and learned, because at that time, not many people had the luxury of being educated in an institution and have the learning. Many people didn't know how to read and write. Those who knew how to read and write are a certain group of people. So when Prophet Muhammad is already mentioned in the Quran that this is the case, and he's bringing you the Quran as an illiterate person and going against your consensus and your science, proving you wrong, strong, what should be our rational expectation of this phenomena? He's the scientist. Back even then, we're calling him the best scientist, the best philosopher, best, people provide the best economist, best military leader, everything apart from messenger. All of that is to demonstrate to people that he is a prophet of God, a messenger of God, as a proof and evidence so that people can believe in that book and have faith and certainty. Because anyone can say, I'm a prophet of God, right? But the Quran gives not only the guidance, it gives you the proof and evidence with that guidance at the same time, so that your heart can be settled, your mind can be settled, because your heart and mind will be synchronized with this understanding. You will say, yeah, it makes sense to believe in one God rather than many. It makes sense not to worship an idol like a monkey or an elephant or a half human, half elephant, or it makes sense not to worship in multiple of deities, 3 in 1, 5 in 20, whatever. But whatever it tells you about God, that God is all one, absolute, independent, self-sufficient, he is not born, doesn't produce children, there's no likeness unto him, your mind will accept that, your intellect will accept that, your heart will accept that. And that is what Islam makes people to willingly, voluntarily accept it. That's called the voluntary submission. Islam, as my Sheikh was saying, is a voluntary submission of oneself by what? By this kind of processing critically, individually, without any coercion, without any force, by saying, I recognize the truth.
Yes.
I understand the truth, and I appreciate, and it makes sense to me, and I want to follow this truth. That is what Islam wants us in terms of this kind of rationalization and intellectualization and internalization of this reality. And when you do that, you would not care about, like, okay, what are my friends going to think? Like, if I become a Muslim, that, oh, I'm going to start eating halal and what and stuff like that. People have all these things. So let's talk about the issues of hijab. Hijab.
Before this, I just
No, I was not explaining or justifying. I'm saying this is something that will come to you and you will do it because your faith will make you want to do that. It's not that you have to become a faith, like, it's not something stopping you from becoming a Muslim, but you would want to yourself put on this hijab. So once you become a Muslim, because of this intellectual internalization of the reality and truth, you would want to say, I don't want to drink alcohol, I don't want to go and sleep around with men or women, whatever, I don't want to eat this nonsense food that is going to be unhealthy. I want to live a life of sanity, dignity, honor, respect, well-being, mental health, physical health. And once you become a Muslim, you will see this is exactly what Islam is providing.
And also, before we come to the point, because there are a few things. Now, for example, as well, when the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, there is one atheist. He said he was atheist. He said, I became a Muslim after I heard about one single hadith about the Prophet, peace be upon him. What he said, Muhammad, if either he is someone who is a true prophet of God, or he is someone is advantageous, someone who's taking advantage of the situation. And he said, and I was looking for anything that to see that he is advantageous. He wants to take advantage of anything.
So you become Muslim for the clout, for example.
He said, when I looked into his life, you'll find he lived poor and he died poor. So it's not about the money. Yeah? Now here, as well, in terms of authority, you'll see him sitting with his companion like one of them. That when you come in, you didn't distinguish between him and others. He's like them, he's one of them. Yeah. And as well, and he is someone who is humble. He will accept someone even. And someone, if once he was adjusting the roles in the battlefield. So one of the companions, he was adjusting them. He said, "Oh, you hurt me." Then he said to him, "You take back your revenge. If you want to do the same thing again." He said, "No, you are wearing something. You were wearing clothes, and I wasn't wearing something as a top." Yeah. And then the Prophet peace over him, he took off the top, and he said, "You do what I did to you." So someone who is that level, and yet he will humble himself to someone who is one of his subjects should be, and yet he has no any arrogance or pride not to equal himself to someone like to another human being. And he said one of the things, this is his statement. Then he said, then while I was studying, and I said, there must be a scientific mistake somewhere. Until he said, when that an eclipse happened during the time of Muhammad. And it happened when he lost his son. He had a son, Ibrahim, his son died, then the eclipse happened. A moon eclipse. And then people, they were wondering, they said, this eclipse happens because either sun eclipse or moon eclipse. So they said, this eclipse happens because our Prophet, peace be upon him, he lost his son. That's why God showed the sadness from the sky and everything that this thing happens. So he said he could take the advantage of this moment to claim, yes, God is with me, and because of I lost my son, that the eclipse happened. That's it. And they would believe him. They would believe him. They will follow that. What he said, he came to them, he said to them, clarify for the humanity, not for him only, not for his people, for the humanity until the day of judgment. What he said to them, he said, the sun and the moon, they are from the signs of God. They will never have eclipse for the living or the death of anyone, including me or my son. So that shows at that time he said that, and you, he is not someone taking advantage of God. He is someone who's truly sent by God. So you could see someone who's with this characteristic will clarify a scientific fact at that time that those are signs from God. They will never have eclipse or something except that what this are when God wills. It's not about the death of the living of someone, as some people claim. Yeah? Even here in the UK, you'll find when it rains, someone died, they say, or even the sky is crying for him. So it doesn't cry for anyone. It's always raining in London.
Yeah.
So my point is, people, they will try to believe in something that they want, but yet the Prophet, peace be upon him, at that point, he rectified that misconception in their mind. And he was saying, and call me Abdullah wa Rasul, the slave of Allah and his messenger. That's all. That's what I am. I'm no one more than this. That's how he used to be loved before. That's how he lived humble, and he died humble, peace be upon him. You see here, so Georgia now. So that's what Brother Mansur was saying to you earlier, which is important.
Let's just clarify what we just discussed here, just one point, so if I may. You see, to understand critically about a prophet and a messenger, we need to look at the life of that person and the claims they make. Because anyone can make a claim and say, I'm a prophet of God, right? I'm a messenger of God, so follow me, and so on. There are many false imposters that came over the history that we know of. Even in Christendom, so many false prophets, for example, they will tell you. So we know even history, people claim to be prophets when they're not, because there are some internal motives of this. So even if we were to say, look, I'm going to critically analyze the life of the prophet, just to see whether indeed he was a prophet of God or not just simply taken by faith or because he says so. So when you look at his life, at one point, when he said, look, I'm not going to stop worshipping the idols, don't worship one God. They got sort of fed up and annoyed and irritated and said, you know what, don't say that anymore, because it's having a great economic impact on their business in Mecca and Arabia at that time.
Which God can be worshipped anywhere, where they want the people to come to their idols to Mecca. That goes against their business.
Come with money, do the train. It's a booming business in Mecca at that time, because there's so many idols worshipping going on. People will come from Syria, from Yemen, and from all these different places. Him, by saying none of them are worship, you should not worship any one of those things, but worship God only, it ruins the trade and the business and impacts their living and whatever, right? They didn't like it.
Yeah.
So they wanted him to stop. He said, look, stop. You know what? What do you want? If you want to be the king, we will make you the king. If you want to be the richest person among us, we'll give you, just ask for whatever wealth you want?
More than all of us.
More than all of us. If you want women, is this what you're after? Just name them, you'll have the woman. Now, if someone was an imposter, think about it. If someone was an imposter, I say, my golden opportunity, there you go. Make me a king, make me the wealthiest, and give me all the women I need, right? You know what he said? He didn't want any of that. In fact, there's another occasion, in fact, he said even like this, even if you were to give the sun on one hand and the moon on the other, I would never stop calling you that there is no one worthy of worship except God alone. I would never stop, even if you were to give me the sun and the moon in my hands. Because that's resilient that he had in preaching the truth to the people. So he had the opportunity. If he was an imposter and a fake, now you know that that's what the fake and imposters will grab the opportunity.
Yeah.
He said, no, I'm not going to take any of that. Instead, he kept on and he was tortured. It's the initial people who became Muslims, they were tortured and they were boycotted, they were killed. So much suffering, but they endured with all that. When he became eventually the leader, because when he went from Mecca to Medina, they all became Muslim, the whole community there. They welcomed him. They established the first Islamic community there. And they became eventually quite powerful, right? What happened was, even after that, when he came back to Mecca, so now he was like the leader of the whole community. So much political might and authority and power. What did he do to his enemies? All these enemies that made him suffer, his people suffer and die and kill and so on, he could have just wiped them all dead, right? He gave a general amnesty. Forgiveness to all, apart from few criminals, he needed to demonstrate that you have to have few exceptions. But apart from that, everyone else was, if you are going to go to this individual, you are safe, and so on and so forth. General amnesty, he forgave them all. That's not what someone who is being tortured and fake and now have the authority and might would do. They would commit vengeance and revenge. That's what we see the political leaders and people do when they become in power. And opposition people, when they come into power...
What happened in Germany, in Berlin, look what happened to them when the Soviet and the Allies, when they entered Berlin, look what happened to them. Literally, it's a mass killing inside Berlin, and as well a mass raping women. Like it was the chaos to the extent you will find gardens, women they had poison, they killed themselves before the Allies entered because they know what's going to happen to them.
Yeah. So that's one.
Thousands of women killed themselves in Berlin because they don't want to be raped.
So that's when the opposition or parties become politically powerful and so on, they do. But what the Prophet said, general amnesty, forgiveness to all, and so on. So when he then established the communities with laws and so on, and he was governing like Arabia, right, at that point. How was he living? He explained, when he died, you would know the state of his living. There are some elements now you can see in YouTube, a three-dimensional 3D of his house. Like he had a mattress made of, date palm leaves. At one point, he was saying, "What have you done to his wife?" He's slept a little bit more.
It will hurt.
Because
it will hurt. When you lie on it, it will hurt. It will the signs of it will be, it will be attached to your body for quite some time.
From the palm trees. But even that, he was saying, "Why have you given more of that? You folded more to make myself comfortable." So that was like his bed, a brick or something like this. What is his pillow? When he could have had at that time, we're talking about luxurious clothing and so on from Persia, from Roman, Byzantine, and so on. But he didn't live like that. He had some utensils where you could have for water, and maybe some from barley or something like that, or something. And he had a shield that he, that was it. That's his house.
And that shield was mortgaged.
No, because he lived.
I know why.
He didn't want to live like a comfortable life, live like a king and so on, because his mission was to convey the truth, the message of the guidance to the people, not to live a life of luxury. So what's the point of going and becoming more and more comfortable?
And the last as well, when he was dying in his last moment, he asked his wife, "Do you have money at home?" She said, "We have 12 dirhams for them. 12 dirhams, which is like coins."
Yeah.
He said, "Give it to the poor and the needy. I don't want to face God having a single penny in my hand."
So the wealth.
To that extent.
Think about his life now. He could have gathered all the wealth. In fact, his companions, his believers, believing companion, will give their life for him. If he just says, go and die, they will die. That is the level of support, commitment that people had. If he said, give me the wealth, they would bring the half of the wealth of Romans and the Byzantines and the Persians and so on. This is what is. But he didn't want any of that. In fact, at one point, he didn't have days went by, no food to eat apart from date, a few dates here and there. You know, dates, yeah? Tamar, it's called, okay? That is how the state of living. Okay, so now we realize his living condition was such that it is not a person who is an imposter or fake to live like that, because he had all the opportunities to live differently, because that's what fake people want, because they want to make themselves happy, rich, famous, commanding, authoritative. He had all of that, but he didn't behave any of that. He was so humble and so low. He was praying every night. Would wake up every night and pray like 2/3, 1/3, 2/3 of the night. Why? Why would he do that? God has made him a messenger. He's forgiven him all his sins. But he says, am I not going? How does this go? Would I not be a grateful servant of God? Even though God has forgiven him and given all of that, he would say he will still behave like this and thank and glorify God. What else did he do? In terms of, we talked about, some people say, you know what, he did all of this because he wanted to unify the Arabs. Guess what? He was talking against the Arabs. How can you do this? How can you bury your daughters alive? How do you bury your daughter's life? For what sin do you do that? Because you will be questioned for what you do that. Because they had the tradition of when a female child was born, they consider it as a financial liability because they have to marry her off and so on and so forth. They would take the live child somewhere else and bury her alive.
Yeah, they used to do that.
That's how it was.
Really?
Exactly, yes. That's how they were.
That was the norm. And can you imagine someone who is standing against this? That was the norm. That's how much. Why do you think people, think about it, why do you think people from all around the world, from different cultures, from different backgrounds, why they believed in him? Why do you think this? Why do you think someone, this brother from Bangladesh, another brother from India, some brother from Africa, from all around the world, why some people will believe in someone who's an Arab man lived 1400 years ago? Because of his character.
Yeah.
But the question
He shows.
So just to continue.
That shows the great character. Peace be upon him. So the question is to you, Sister Georgia. I will ask you, do you believe in God? After we discuss,
I was following.
after we discuss about Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, do you believe he is a prophet from God? So that makes you Muslim.
Really?
Yes. But you have to accept Islam and to become an official Muslim. The person has to take a step, which is the testimony, which is the person has to testify there is none worthy of worship except Allah, Allah is the one God, and to testify that Muhammad is the Messenger of Allah, and then you will be officially Muslim, like all Muslims, and you will be member of 1.8 billion brothers and sisters. You will be our sister in Islam, and we'll be there inshallah for
great,
you.
and Jesus is also a prophet.
Teach you, and we'll be there inshallah to teach you and to help you in all of these things. Now, do you want to accept?
Because in your heart,
No, worries. Before the mosque, no problem.
in your heart, you're already a Muslim.
You're already Muslim.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we will. And by the way, we have. I run as well the Salah course to teach people how to pray. I do it at mosque, which through as well as a part of my project as well with Salam. So inshallah, if you want it, we'll start teaching you. But the first thing now is you, Georgia. Yeah, is you. Now, since you're in your heart, you're a Muslim, yeah, to take that step of testimony to Islam. To say it, we'll say it, to say it in English, if you understand, and then to say it in Arabic, that's how it is, yeah? And then after that, it will be good, you'll be welcome to this 1.8 billion brothers and sisters, okay?
Movies you have to do it for yourself.
Yeah. All right? Yeah? let's say it together.
Oh yeah.
What, do you live
Oh, you.
I mean, she's like,
One second, brother. Just leave it. Listen, sister, you're already there. I'm not convincing you of something which you are not convinced. You are already there.
Yeah.
So you just only you're doing that as a official Muslim. Yeah. Yeah. So you are already there. I'm not introducing you. Yeah. So what we will say, just to say the testimony, you will become official Muslim. To identify yourself as a Muslim, and slowly, it's a gradual. Islam is a journey of learning. You learn, and you all learn, and all of us here, we're going to be there to teach you and to help you, and for any questions, we're going to help you. All right? Okay. Yeah. What is it? Okay, let's do the testimony. Yeah.
I don't want to do it with everyone.
No, don't worry.
That's fine. Let's go to one side.
If you want,
Shall we go to one side?
Go here. Totally up to you. Listen, by the way, and that's a great thing. Yeah, that's a great thing. By the way, you are. What happens? Let me tell you something. Yeah, you are already there. Yeah? Just only to say, we'll say it in English, and then we'll say it in English. All right? Okay. Repeat after me.
Well, I think because I mean, obviously, if she has to do it, you know.
If she doesn't need to do it in a mosque.
She doesn't need to do it in a mosque.
If you feel that you have to go to a mosque, there's no need to go to a mosque.
She was serious about that. So what happened is we've been together sort of for a month in Europe, and she's seen lots of things about Islam, about Muslims and stuff. And she picked up a few things. So you thought, you know what, this is something nice that is, you know.
Yeah, that's why. That's what she's already.
So she was interested in it. I was like, do you know what? I don't care whether you want to be. I'm not the best example of a Muslim, but if you want to.
So now be the best example to help her to make that transition, inshallah.
Okay.
Rather than becoming an obstacle, encourage her, inshallah.
All right. Do you want to side? Do you want to side? Yeah? Over here. Whatever.
Up to you.
George, up to you. Yeah? Do you want to go to side or you do it here? Up to you.
I'm not going to
What?
very intense, you know.
What?
Okay,
Brothers, can you please just give us some space, please, brothers?
so let's go to a side. Let's go to a
Some
side.
space, just some space, brothers.
Yeah, yes, bro.
Yeah, just some space.
Do you want it to be off camera?
Oh, here.
I'm actually watching this at home. Just
So let's do it off camera.
If you want to
She's probably like, let's get from her dad,
Why don't you do it off camera if that's comfortable with you?
Well, just go around.
Yeah, that's fine. That's good.
come.
We're coming back. Okay. Yeah, you stay there.
No, see, just feel comfortable, yeah?
Okay.
So, you repeat after Allah, and I testify
And I testify
that Muhammad
that Muhammad
is the messenger
is the messenger
of Allah.
of Allah.
And now we'll say it in Arabic. Say
It's
it.
going to be hard for me to say.
No, I will help. أشهد
أشهد
أن لا
ألا
إله
إله
إلا
إلا
الله
الله
وأشهد
وأشهد
أن
أن
محمدا
محمدا
رسول
رسول
الله.
Is that it? Yeah, it was
You are officially Muslim,
great.
and there's few good things for you. Firstly, all your sins is wiped as if you are a newborn baby. You have no sins.
Really?
That's the first thing. Yes. Second thing, you start high in Islam. You start high, and not just that. God will replace all the good things that you have done. It will be in your deeds as well. Meaning, you have no sins. You are as a newborn baby. That's one thing. The second thing as well, that it's your journey of Islam starts, and you should know your identity as a Muslim. To know that you belong to Islam. Yeah, you are a Muslim and you belong to Islam. That's your identity. That's who you are. You are Georgia, the Muslim sister, the one who accepted Islam. That's how you are. That's important thing. For some people, they may get confused after the Shahada. They don't know who's their identity. Now, your identity is a Muslim. Yeah. So you need to increase your knowledge about Islam.
Yeah. I need to read the Quran, all of it.
Of course. And that's the second thing as well. What I want from you. Do you live in London?
I know, but I come here like every weekend.
Okay. Whereabouts? Where do you live?
Near Manchester.
Near Manchester. Okay. We can do like a Salah course or something for you. How to teach you how to pray. That I do run it every. I do run it every.
We're still recording.
Wednesday.
Still recording. Yeah. She's become a Muslim. Alhamdulillah.
Between us, I have no problem. We can do it for you, but at least something that to start with. Yeah. So that's something which is. If you have any question about Islam, just ask us here, and we are more than happy to answer your questions. Do you want to go back to the camera to ask? Do you want to ask?
Do you want to go back to the camera? So that,
I haven't really got any questions right now. I'm kind of just like, taking it away.
Yeah. All right.
But
you can take his number, and then he can put you into a sisters group.
Yes.
Do you have something like that? Or connect with some.
Oh yeah, I've got a phone. I can't remember. Yeah. So you got my phone number? My phone died. Can I have it? No, my phone died, so I don't really. Yeah, have you got my phone number?
If you remember.
Have you got my your phone?
Okay.
Do you want to give her some advice about relationship between man and women?
My advice to the sister, generally, Alhamdulillah, now you are a Muslim. That's something which is good, and that's something which is great, and that's the best day for you after you know that you are a Muslim and you accept Islam. That's something which is great. Now, my advice to you as well, of course, in Islam recognizes marital relationship, husband and wife, etc. At least in an Islamic, Islamic of the nikah. That's the best thing if you want to do as well. I think the brother. At least you do and that's the best thing. And of course, modesty is a key thing. Of course, so you're already there, and as well to improve. That's something which is in your advantage. That's what we want the good for you, and we hope the best for you. And if you have any questions on as I mentioned to you, we'll take an exchange or contact. And if you have any questions, I have
You from there?
yeah.
Give you my number.
Yeah. We generally have like sisters, like only sisters group. We have sisters group. So if you could share this with
You can write it down.
if you have
the number.
any questions or something, then you could direct there, ask your question there, and then the other sisters as well, they will know if you have anything that you want to share with them, things like that. And as well, some of them, they have the same experience like you. Some of them, they might have certain things. They'll say, oh, how can I go about, for example, to explain this to my parents? They have, a river, they can relate to each other, they can help you out. That's something. Yeah? All right?
Thank you. Yeah, I mean.
It's very important to be in company with Muslim sisters to help you develop yourself, not only in knowledge, but in practice.
Whatever
Do you have my number? I've not called me. Saved it.
Shall I give you my number and then you send me a text?
Because the issue is we wanted to add her to the WhatsApp group.
Like his phone is dead. His phone is dead.
You have her number?
Do you have it on my phone? Are you not called?
I don't have.
Oh, your phone's dead as well. No, it's too not.
Don't say it because I don't want these numbers to be for the whole world to share.
I'm trying to think what I could do.
I have my phone, but do you have Facebook?
Yeah, I could give you my number on Facebook later.
Yeah, okay. Give me.
My phone is dead as well.
Your phone is dead as well. What's your number? Put your number here. What's your number?
Yes.
Where are you from, Yunus?
I'm a Moroccan.
Okay, brother Yunus. What I will do later on, if you can kindly just text me. Okay, I will text you.
Yeah, send me a text, and then I'll give her your number, and then you add her to.
Because it's the sisters only, so you can comfortably discuss between yourselves rather than
That's generally the sisters group, which is
Listen, because you feel like you're Sister Jordan.
if they have sometimes they relate to each other.
now you have a bigger responsibility. Now she's a Muslim sister of yours. If you're intending to have a relationship or marriage and so on, you have to do it in a halal way.
That's why I say to her, I keep saying to her,
That's something as well, whenever you wanted to do the nikah, inshallah, the marriage,
He can help it. He can help this.
You're not getting married, though. I keep telling her, like most of the time, when we talked about, relationships and stuff, because I used to live in the middle. And then, you know, like, I mean, lots of young people in my age, they just have like random sex and whatever. Totally, we don't do that. You know, like, we don't do that. Like, I mean, I've had friends who are probably Muslims, but not no good Muslims. He would like encourage you to do that, and like, but like for me, like it's a no. You know? So like I said to him, like that's why I cannot do that, and this is why.
That's good. That's good. So, that's something which is good. That's what I want from you, inshallah. So whenever you wanted to do to go with this, let me know. Islamically, you should have a guardian, by the way, like for the
father,
to make sure, like you know, to make sure that there is someone, if he there for your husband, make sure that fulfilling your rights, etc. So I don't mind to perform this at the point whenever you're ready, and then after that, I'm not an easygoing person. To him, not to you.
So now you will be in check, and she will now look at you how well you're behaving as a Muslim now, because she's a Muslim sister. So all the honor and dignity and respect and the rights,
exactly.
You have to maintain that in the approved way, and do not interfere with her rights and responsibilities or so forth. Right?
Yeah.
It's okay, because you will be accountable.
She probably
for anything that you do.
She should learn from women more than me. Do you know what I mean?
As well, and I will tell you something.
So we've wondered.
Many of the sisters who accept Islam, one of the things that happens when they get married to a brother, and then who doesn't show a good character, and then they will judge Islam sometimes. And I will tell you something: do not judge Islam through people, not him, not me, no one. Judge Islam through Islam. Get from them. People they say you are sinners, you make mistakes, you are shortcoming.
Because you did not become Muslim because of how he's convinced you. You convinced yourself because of the evidence that you've seen of the Prophet ﷺ about Allah and about the Quran. So make that your arbiter, even if he's to mistreat you. We will make him accountable, but that's not how you should then say, because of him.
We started talking about this the other day.
That's okay, brother.
We were.
Don't worry about it. It's okay. I'm not asking for any justification. All I'm saying is, may Allah help you and increase you in your journey, and develop you and make you a scholar of Islam. Through you, then other people can accept Islam through you. Okay? Because we wish you for not only the best, we want you to become the light for other people to become Muslims. Because this is a need in a society like this, so that you can encourage others to see the misconceptions people have about Islam, and then not only that will benefit you.
Are the giants in Afghanistan, are they Muslim giants?
We're talking about different things now. Okay? Thank you.
They are Muslim, aren't they?
We can have a discussion afterwards, yeah? Inshallah, maybe.
That's fine.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is like,
You're very hostile.
So, do you want to, just go home now? Whatever that home is, or home, or whatever. Have a shower and thank Allah, thank God. Grateful to God that He has guided you.
And by the way, earlier, why I told you just wait a minute, because what happens, some brothers mistakenly what they do, when someone wanted to take the step of Islam, they would come and tell them, hold on, maybe they want to finish him off. This moment, the person would reach the level of Iman, wanted to take the Shahada. When someone just postponed this one, sometimes Shaitan wanted to postpone it for another day. You never know. So that's why.
Be grateful and thankful that Allah has guided her, because this is what we believe as Muslims. You'll realize we cannot convince anyone, neither can the Prophet to guide. He's not able to guide. Allah is the one to guide. We are only the conveyor of message. Even the Prophet ﷺ, our Prophet, he tried and tried to get his own uncle to become Muslim. He couldn't. So the guidance is not in the hands of us or even in the Prophet. The guidance is in the hands of Allah. So we should be really grateful. We should be really grateful and thankful to Allah. Okay? So, may Allah, bless you. May Allah bless you and increase you. Take care, right?
yes, I sent her the number.
Okay, go ahead. Thank you so much. Okay. For those of you,
just text me, inshallah, the number, and then we'll be in touch, yeah? All right? Look after yourself.
I will go. Fine, okay.
All right, George.
Good night.
Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum.
you're a Sunni brother, yeah?
Sunni, yeah.
Yes.
All right.
So just some general comments to our audience, brother?
Alhamdulillah, there are a few things that I want to point out. That in da'wah, I will advise firstly, if someone is interested in Islam, let them come and meet us here. We can do this. But at the same time, just give us some space. So sometimes it is, it's sometimes before the person reaches the moment that they will think the Shahada, some Muslims they will say, oh, hold on a second, maybe this is we don't force.
We see that quite often. We
shouldn't force as Muslims. We are not allowed to force anyone to become Muslim, but at the same time as when someone having that moment, we should allow it to happen. Yeah? So we shouldn't interfere. Because we have experience. The second thing as well, alhamdulillah, that makes Islam make sense to many people all around the world. Whenever we see a new Muslim, Allah, I feel alhamdulillah that Allah put us in the right time, in the right place. We never know. Allah used us. Alhamdulillah. We ask Allah Azza wa Jalla that Allah should keep using us for His cause, to convey the message of Allah Azza wa Jalla to the people. And at the same time, even if someone took Shahada with us, we didn't do the biggest effort. The biggest effort is through the other Muslims who are around them, who educate them, the other people who wrote books and leaflets giving to them. All of these things is a compiled effort. It's not just only an individual effort. So when someone accepts Islam, took Shahada with me, it's not me. It's the whole Muslims who participate in this. They have done the effort in order to bring people to Islam. And that's the key.
That's fine. So I just want to remind our audience, you can see the effects. Walaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. The effects of efforts. We should always try and put our efforts in conveying the message, because if we didn't do that, how do you expect people to remove their misconception about Islam and to see the light of Islam? So always, brothers and sisters, in whatever capacity, بَلِّغُوا عَنِّي وَلَوْ آيَةً, أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام, then even if you have one ayah, you convey it to the people, even if it's just one ayah. So you try to learn about Islam, understand Islam, make yourself better representative of Islam, practice Islam, practice Islam, so that people, through your actions and your etiquettes and your attitudes and your manners and your behaviors, they will be more interested in Islam, and they'll say, I want to be like you. How is it that you are so nice and kind and truthful, not deceiving, not mocking, and so on? So your action should be an important part of your dawah activities to the people, but increase your knowledge in Islam. Learn and sit down with scholars and alims, so that you can learn the manners and the ways and approaches of giving da'wah, and inshallah Allah will make you a great da'iyah, so that through you, the next generations that we are trying to empower, through you and your families and your friends and your offspring, inshallah da'wah will continue stronger and stronger. Our lives may be limited. Do we know when we're going to die? We don't. But we want to continue the legacy through you, inshallah, continue and help the people who haven't seen the light. Try your best to learn and to impart this knowledge to people, so that people can at least accept Islam and not go into hellfire. Wa akhiru dawana alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Jazakallah khairan.
Allah will for the sake of Allah. May Allah unite us